श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय आविराविर्मुधि। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोः श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। Let we be protected, let we be nourished. Let we study with energy and vigor. Let our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment, not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace. I offer my pranams to Mother Sharda Devi and Sri Ramakrishna. We dedicate ourselves for their services. Today is Mother's Day, as you know. The one word that is dear to all of us, without any barriers. We all love our mothers. And when it is Divine Mother, so Divine Mother is manifesting in so many forms. We are happy that on this day, we have one of our brothers, Swami Tattwamayananda ji from San Francisco. He'll present us the aspect that in Indian or scriptural point of view, how mother is viewed. We know in our practical way what mother is, how we love, but what our scriptures say, that's also important to know. Swami Tattwamayananda, currently the minister of the Vedanta Society of Northern California, San Francisco. And this center was originally founded by Swami Vivekananda in 1900. And it served in various, Swami served in various centers of the Ramakrishna order in India as editor, publisher, and teacher of Sanskrit and Indian philosophy. He underwent traditional training in Hindu scriptures, Sanskrit and Vedic, and also Vedantic literature for many years. And he comes from a family which is very traditional. In Kerala, I know we have survived at least 10 millenniums. And how the Veda is chanted. If you search internet, you'll find that in North India it is like they put the hand sign Om Sahana Bhavatu like this way. In Southern India it is like the head goes like this. That's why you can see like this, yes. So how they are trained in childhood, they really teacher puts their hand like this, how to move the head without mistake. So in a Vedic knowledge is oral, and that is why it is saved. And we have not lost even a comma or full stop or say period here. So because of that way, if it was written in Brahmi Lipi was not understood for long. So with this way, we kept our knowledge living even today. Even today, they are trained like that. So he comes from one of such families. Okay. And for many years he did. He edited important Sanskrit texts on Hinduism, Buddhism, and Indian philosophy. He joined in Madras Math in 1979, and then he was sent to Thrissur, one of the Kerala center. He was born in Kerala. Before coming to the United States in January 2012, he was teaching Vedantic texts like Prasthantraya, Bhasyas of Adi Shankaracharya, Sanskrit and Indian philosophy at the training center in Belur Math, the institution that trains the monks of the Ramakrishna order at the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mission, Kolkata, in Belur Math it is, across Ganga. And he taught there for about 7 years. And before that, he served in our Advaita ashram also before or after. And he was sent to Cherrapunji also. So whole life is dedicated for teaching, etc., publishing, and also editing news. Prabuddha Kerala, one periodical comes. He is frequently invited for lectures on yoga, Vedanta, and traditional Hindu scriptures, and for participating in interfaith dialogues in different parts of the world. For the last several years, he has been giving classes on different topics related to Indian philosophy that are hosted by the Stanford Hindu Students Association. So this is his short bio, and we'll see how he explains mother, that motherhood of divine, how it influences us. So without taking much of your time, let us listen from him. So Swamiji, thank you for making this occasion and to come here all the way from San Francisco. He went to see Swami Bhaskaranandji to Seattle, and then from there to Portland. So over to you.
Om Jananim Sharada Devi Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapatni Tayu Sutva Pranamami Mukurnati Vidhakni Dahiga Shakti Ramakrishna Sthita Kiyo Sarva Vidya Surubhamstam Sharadam Pranamami. My pranams to Srimad Swami Chandrasekharanji Maharaj, and also my greetings and namaskar, Assistant Swamiji, and to all the devotees who are assembled here and friends, well-wishers of this ashram. So today, as a coincidence, today happens to be the Mother's Day. Now, mother is a very important name in India's family tradition, India's cultural tradition. To give an example, in ancient India, there used to be Vedic schools, Vedic hermitages. Children used to be sent to Vedic schools, Vedic hermitages. In the Puranic or Upanishadic Vedic books, you come across names like Sanat Kumara, Narada, Ashwapati, and so on. Many, many great Uddalaka and so on. Shwetaketu, all the great students and teachers of the Vedas. So small children used to be sent to Vedic schools. And after undergoing training for 12 years, they used to return home. And there used to be a convocation address. After undergoing training in the Vedic school, after completion of the Vedic studies, they used to return home to play different roles in the family. to marry, to become husbands or wives, depending upon the situation, sisters or brothers, playing different roles in the family structure, playing the different roles in the society, in the social life, and also growing up as ideal citizens of the kingdoms, ancient. Those are the days of the monarchies. Now, the convocation address used to include one very important statement. It begins like this: Veda Manucha Acharya Andevasina Manushasti Satyam Bada Dharmam Chara Satyana Pramadiravyam Dharmana Pramadiravyam. This is the first part of the instruction. After teaching the Vedas, the teacher addresses a group of students, some kind of a convocation address. You should practice Satya, truth, and you should not deviate from truth. You should practice Dharma, and you should not deviate from the path of Dharma, and so on. Then comes the instruction for family life. And the first instruction that comes is Matru Devo Bhava. Literally, it means let your mother be as respectful to you, as honorable to you, as God or Goddess herself, God Himself or Goddess herself, depending on the context. This is the first instruction given to a boy or a girl after education who is going back to her or his home to marry and become householders. Matru. Why this mother ideal is so very important? It's very interesting. Look at our own Ramakrishna order to which Vedanta society belonged. In fact, after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, it was Divine Mother, Sri Sharada Devi, who was the mother of this order, the patron of this order. The Sri Ramakrishna himself instructed her accordingly. What it means is, mother is the first name and the first relationship. In the Vedic convocation address, it continues, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Aditi Devo Bhava, etc. So, just like your mother, or after mother, let your father and also your teacher and your guest be as honorable to you as God Himself. It's a kind of metaphor, some kind of a statement, allegory, but it has a profound significance. If you look at the history of human civilization, you find there was always one woman behind every great man, either a great, pious, affectionate mother or a very chaste, a very loyal, loving wife. Behind the greatness, the achievements, the accomplishments of every great man, either there will be blessings of a mother or the partnership of a loving wife. So that means the only relationship that had a profound spiritual implication in the family structure is the relationship between a mother and her child. Shankaracharya has written many statements about this, and he says there can be an erratic son or daughter, but there cannot be an erratic mother, because mother cannot but think of the children with affection and not in any other way. What it means is mother is the highest human dimension in terms of human interactions and human relationship. Coming back to Holy Mother, you can see Holy Mother's own interactions with her disciples. Whatever they wanted, she gave them. One of the statements in the Lalita Sahasranama, it in a way appears in Chandi also, is Bhukti Mukti Pradayini. So mother is called Bhukti Pradayini and Mukti Pradayini, the one who gives you material prosperity, worldly enjoyments, joy, wealth. At the same time, also the wisdom that helps you to go beyond material prosperity. That is mukti or liberation. So that's why mother is called the giver of the highest spiritual liberation, the highest spiritual wisdom, and also the highest material prosperity. In mother's own life, we can see, Holy Mother's life, we can see many interesting examples of this unique combination of wisdom and also human effort that she used to give to her disciples. On one occasion, for example, a group of disciples and devotees came to Holy Mother and they said, well, we are working very hard. We are doing a lot of japa, dhyana, meditation, puja, and so on. Still, there is no much progress. So we are not getting any realization of God, a vision of God. Mother said, is God something like a vegetable or a fish that you can buy in the market? You give fixed amount and you give it back. You click credit card and you want it back. So if you have this kind of demanding attitude towards God, you will not get anything. So that means a complete prapatti is what is needed for Saranagati, total dedication. Because when you dedicate yourself to the divine, you don't bargain any further. Suppose you give $50 donation to somebody, and next day you ask him, what did you do with my money? And you go on just chasing him, asking questions, demanding an explanation of how he spent this money. He will put it back on your face, throw it back on your face. So when we surrender ourselves to God, Divine Mother, we should close the bargain. No more bargain any longer. On another occasion, some of the devotees, just the opposite side of another group of devotees went to Holy Mother. And they told her, well, we have surrendered ourselves everything to you. So we don't need to do any japa, dhyana. We can be free. We don't have to do anything. Then Mother said, how can you uh, how can you expect spiritual progress unless you make your own effort? So in the previous occasion, Mother said, human effort is not enough, but a kind of total dedication, devotion, and constant practice also necessary. On this occasion, Mother says, total dedication alone is not enough. You should also strive hard because our efforts, what we call Purusha Prayatna in Sanskrit language, our own efforts help us to remove the obstacles and make us fit for receiving grace. If you receive God's grace without any effort, then you may not recognize God's grace as God's grace. You may think it's an accident. There's somebody who prayed to God, if you give me $1,000, I shall donate $500 to the church. And next day he was walking, he got a wallet lying in the street. It contained $500. So he thought, you already taken your share, so I don't have to give you anything. That's a human predicament because frequently we somehow want to take the shortcut. So Mother said, it's not enough if you just dedicate, if you surrender yourself to God, but you should also work hard to be fit, to be ready to receive grace and even to recognize God's grace as God's grace. You have to make yourself ready. It actually you find in the biblical parable, the sower of the seed. Unless the soil is ready, the seeds won't sprout. It may be taken away by the bird, it can be eaten away by the bird, it can get throttled, it can wither away, so it won't sprout. Now, in Sri Ramakrishna's life also, you can see these examples. Human effort and God's grace. Maybe one important parallel that you find is Saint Teresa of Avila's autobiography, where she talks about how a farmer is trying to irrigate the field. Now, there are many ways of irrigating the field. You can bring water from the river, you can cut a canal, and you can use water mill. There are many ways of bringing water to the field for irrigating. But unless you remove all the weeds and grass and stones and pebbles from the field, and then you irrigate the field before the field is ready, before all the weeds are removed, you won't get any crop. So first, our mind should be ready. Then only human efforts will, then only grace will actually work. We will be able to make use of grace. Now, you find that in our own Hindu tradition, mother played a very important role. In a traditional Hindu family, mother will play the role of friend, guide, and philosopher. Actually, a child first sees his or her mother and not just learns, but imbibes. I can quote, there is an interesting verse in the one of our quotes called Vedic law books called Smritis. It says, Upadhyaya Dashacharya Acharya to Shatampida Sahasrena Adhigam Mathu Gauravena Atirichide. So very what it means is the Sanskrit verse, but it's a very profound meaning. So let us say you're studying in a college or university. There's a guest lecturer who comes from another university to give some orientation or some classes once a while. Such a person is called Upadhyaya, guest lecturer. And the professor who guides you to prepare the thesis, to specialize in an area of study, is called an acharya, according to tradition. Now, this important verse tells you that the respect that you should give to your own professor, the one who gives guidance, who instructs you on how to prepare your thesis, the respect that should be given to your professor is 10 times the respect you should give to a guest lecturer. That is Ubadhyaya Dasha Acharya. Then Acharya to Shatampida, what it means is the respect that you should give to your father is 100 times the respect you should give to your professor. Then Sahasrenadhigam Pitu Gauravena Dirichide. The respect that you should give to mother is 1,000 times as much as the respect you give to your father. This family structure. It's very interesting. Why was that the respect to be given, that stated that respect to be given to mother is 1,000. 1,000 Sahasram in Sanskrit can also mean Asankhya, mean infinite, beyond all limits. That's because a mother can almost raise herself to the level of the divine. In fact, the most sublime spiritual archetype in world religions could be found in the forms of Durga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and so on. All these are different names which had their origin in Vedic Rigveda Samhita, which later great commentators like Upanishad Shankaracharya brought down to Hindu pantheon. So all these divine names are examples. For example, Saraswati, look at Saraswati. So mentioned Saram Dadadini Saraswati, another interpretation. The one who gives you spiritual wisdom, the mother who gives you spiritual wisdom is Saraswati. Saraswati is supposed to be the custodian of Metha. What is Metha? Metha is, it can be called, there are two interpretations. One is the ability to read, understand, and retain in your memory a great spiritual idea. The other one is, that is called Grandadharana Shakti. The other one is called, purified intellect. So, in Hindu tradition, the Divine Mother, the feminine spiritual archetype, is a symbol of, or a giver of, purified intellect. And what is a purified intellect? It's called Metha. Well, suppose you have lot of money, lot of wealth, lot of power, lot of influence, or lot of resources, but you don't know how to make use of them. Suppose you know how to make use of them, it will be blessing to us, to all of us, blessing to everyone. If we cannot know, if we don't know, if we cannot make proper use of what we have, our own resources, and if we cannot prevent ourselves from the temptation to make misuse of our resources, then our resources become a problem, a liability. Now, Divine Mother is the giver of this Metha. That's why this Divine Mother, the Divine Mother ideal in Hinduism also called Medha Devi, Saraswati, Savitri, Gayatri. All these are different names used in Vedic tradition. Sometimes the same Divine Mother as the giver of this divine wisdom. Remember that a kind of spiritual common sense that prevents us from doing something wrong that can be a problem for ourselves, a problem for others. Or the spiritual common sense that helps us to do it something in the right fashion, to do our duty in a proper manner, so that it will be a blessing to us and blessing to others. That spiritual common sense can be called technical meta. That's why in one very important verse, there is a statement, you know, we go through different births according to ancient tradition. Madhuragre Atijananam Ditiyam Maujibandhani Tadiyam Yajnadikshayam Dijasya Sudichodana. What it means is we go through three types of birth. That's what this ancient verse tells you from Manusmriti. The first one, of course, the biological birth. When we are born, this first birth. The second birth is when we get initiation into education. When you go to kindergarten, when you begin your education in a formal manner, it is called the second birth. The third birth is giving higher wisdom. Our Hindu tradition tells us that without mother's blessings, you cannot have any of these three types of birth. Janana means birth. I'm just giving an example. What a profound, sublime idea. Well, in our own times, in a country, mostly it's happening all over the world, where human relations are becoming less and less recognized, and we don't attach a sense of sanctity and sacredness to human relations. Everything becomes transactional. In fact, when I was in San Francisco, one of our professors told me a story. He was visiting one of his friends, and his friend told him, next month, I'm very happy because I have another room for renting because his son will be 18 years old. So the room where his son is staying right now can be rent. So when the father gives his 18-year-old son on 18th birthday, give a present, a birthday present, a small piece of paper also will be there. There's a bill for the next month's rent. So that means, you know, what happens when this happens? You can see every day, if you read newspapers, you can see terrible things happening in schools and campuses, because children or youngsters do not get the first lesson from their own mother. People may tell you, oh, everyone should be freedom. Well, I mean, if parents want freedom from their children and the children want freedom from their parents, this is the result. This is really happening. I don't mean to say that you can go back to Vedic times in this 21st century America. Not possible. But still, some of these ancient teachings do have a relevance and significance in our own times. See, obviously, of course, we are living in a different age. As part of the inevitable evolution of human civilization, we have reached today, this 21st century, when there are artificial intelligence and driverless cars and going to Mars. Terrible, wonderful things are happening. These are the gifts of nature and gifts of science and technology. But along with that, if we can revive or if we can learn something from these ancient books, ancient values, that can enrich our contemporary culture and civilization. It can also help us to solve many of the problems, especially the absence of sanctity and sacredness in human relations. And also when we forget the sanctity and sacredness, the spiritual dimension of the institution of family. There's a spiritual dimension to the institution of family, human relations. If we forget that, this is what will happen. Children won't recognize their mother, and mothers would like to be as far away from their children as possible. So that's why it is said the first birth is from mother. The second birth is liberation from ignorance when you begin your education. That also is the contribution of a loving mother. It's the mother who first takes you to kindergarten. Again, spiritual wisdom. Actually, uh, what we learn from our mother when we are young, we will never forget till we reach end of our life. Then close to our own times, Sri Ramakrishna Prakshan. If you read Sri Ramakrishna's story, his life you find, his devotion, his affection to his mother. Swami Vivekananda, even after returning from the West, he continued his close interaction with his mother. Shankaracharya. See, Shankaracharya was a small boy of 6 years when he started his life as a monk. And he walked 1,200 miles all the way from his birthplace to Indore, today's Omkareshwar, where he met his guru. And he wrote all the most profound philosophical works before 16 and traveled all over Indian subcontinent 4 times, organized 10 monastic orders. Ignatius Loyola, 1 monastic order, Jesuit order. St. Francis, 1 monastic order. Shankaracharya, 10 monastic orders. Today, wherever you go in India or America, wherever you find a Swami coming from India, he belongs to one or other of the monastic orders that came from Shankaracharya. Chinmaya Mission is Saraswati Sampradaya, or Ramakrishna Mission is Puri Sampradaya. Anyone you take, everywhere, even your yoga teachers also belong to the Sampradaya. Plus, he installed hundreds of Hindu temples, wrote the most profound devotional poetry in Sanskrit, the most profound spiritual books, and also established Advaita philosophy. So he was some kind of an intellectual giant, a spiritual giant, but he never forgot the promise he gave to his own mother. As a boy of 6 years, he had promised to his mother that he will come and meet her when she was breathing her last. And when he was about 1,500 miles away from his native place, suddenly, as an intuition, he remembered his promise that he had given to his mother some 20 years earlier. And he went back and he kept his promise. So you find many, even great leaders, political leaders, great men who accomplished great things, men and women who accomplished great things. One unique aspect of their achievement was they never forgot their obligation to their mother. So that's why it seems that the only spiritual relationship we can have in this world is the relationship that we can have with our mother. That's why it is stated here, Mataram va susaram va matur va bhaginim nijam bhiksheda bhiksham prathamam ya chainam navamanayet. It says, well, it has something to do with the ancient Vedic heritage. When you undergo this ceremony called Upanayana, means a formal initiation to Vedic studies, you have to go begging for alms for 3 days. And it stated that first person from whom you have to take alms is your own mother. So in these books, you find 2 aspects. One, the sanctity and sacredness and the spiritual dimension of the status of a mother, whatever may be your achievement in material life, how it is so very important in ancient Vedic times. Secondly, how we can bring back some of these ideals into our own times in this 21st century. Because if the institution of family collapses, society also is bound to collapse. If you look at, I've already mentioned this, look at newspapers, these shooting, terrible things happening in campuses. youngsters taking out AK-51, AK-28, automatic rifles, going about shooting people. Why did they do that? Because perhaps one reason is they did not get a proper instruction from their own mother. Because when children are even physically dependent upon mother's protection, there is one stage in the life of every child. He cannot practice his declaration of independence when he's a child of baby of 5 years old, 6 years old. He's helplessly dependent upon mother's protection. The food that comes from mother, the protection that comes from mother. And that's a time when mother can and should instruct her children about the sanctity and sacredness of human interactions. That can be the foundation for the development of personality. So some of these great stories or these great ideals that come from Vedic tradition can be a very wonderful, enriching factor in modern times. The sanctity, the sacredness, and the spiritual dimension of the relationship between mother and children, brother and sister, in all these different aspects of human relations in modern times. That's why I was trying to emphasize this important aspect. Then there is another very interesting instruction. It is Mata Pitrubhyam Jamir Bhir Prata Putrena Bharya Duhida Dasavargena Vivadam Nasamachari. What it means is you should never argue with your mother. That's the essence of it. In fact, the verse continues. You should not argue. Maybe we can say, at least we should not become argumentative. That's what it implies. You can argue, but you should not become argumentative. So it goes like this, you should not become argumentative to your mother, father, elders, teachers. It goes like that. But one thing I want to say is the extreme sanctity and sacredness. If a child, at least when he or she is a child, not a grown-up, can look upon her or his mother as the supreme teacher and always treat her with the utmost respect and reverence, there cannot be a higher picture of human relations. I'm reminded of an interesting story. It doesn't come from me, but it was narrated by a preacher, by a teacher, popular Hindu teacher in India. He was telling a very interesting story. Unfortunately, in an unfortunate family, maybe it's modern high-tech family, perhaps, parents were not treated properly by the husband and wife. So their child, means the grandchild, the granddaughter or grandson, noticed that his own parents were not treating their parents, means the grandparents, properly. So every day, his parents were feeding the grandparents with broken pieces of bread, stale bread, and things like that. So one day, the little child was collecting crumbs of broken bread from the kitchen. Then the parents asked him, "What are you doing?" "No, I'm trying to collect these stale pieces of broken bread so that I should have a good stock of them ready for you when you become old." Now, that is a big eye-opener. Now, I don't know if it really happened or not. Maybe this was narrated as a metaphor, as a grand example by a preacher. What it means is, whatever you give, you get back. This is important. It's almost like a relay competition, 400 meters, 800 meters. You change the baton and somebody else continue running. So what it means is, the family relationship is based on this concept of a spiritual cultural inheritance. There's a cultural wealth and inheritance that the family or all the members of family share. This is a precious wealth. And this is built upon the foundation of love and affection with a spiritual dimension to it between in their interaction between among family members. Again, I mean, this spiritual aspect is very important because if you remove the spiritual aspect and if human relations become purely transactions based on utilitarian values, pragmatic values, then it becomes dry bonds. That's why there is a spiritual dimension to human relations in the family structure. And this comes from this fundamental principle, Matru Devo Bhava. Because the only unavoidable, inseparable connection that you have any other family member is your connection with the mother, part of the mother. So this spiritual connection, we can never pay back our indebtedness to our mother. That's why I mentioned even the great Swami Vivekananda. At the spiritual level, Vivekananda got the blessings of Holy Mother. And even if you look upon Vivekananda's Narendranath Datta, he never forgot his affectionate relationship with his mother. His mother struggled hard to feed the children. After his father's passing away, the family became poor. There were quarrels among the different relatives of Swami Vivekananda for taking hold of the family properties. At that time, of course, they managed to retain it, but his mother had to struggle very hard. So he still remembered those days. You can find there are many letters Swami Vivekananda wrote later on when he became a world-renowned champion of Vedanta. He remembered the struggles, the toils, the sacrifices that his mother underwent for bringing up her children. And he remembered this to his last moment. So this is a very, very important aspect that I remember, that we should remember. Another very important thing, I'm just quoting a few important verses and trying to explain a few things based on this. Mata Pitava Didyadam Yamadhi Putramapati Sadrisam Pridi Samyuktam Saknyayo Dittimasutah. What it means is, it has something to do with the Hindu adoption law. When a loving mother, accompanied by her husband, that is a father, find it difficult to take care of their children because of financial difficulties, if they willingly and with great affection hand over the responsibility of taking care of the children to another family of the same culture, the same refined culture, acceptable cultural traditions, then he should do that. But this has become a standard principle in what we call Hindu property succession law, and also in the ancient Hindu code, which later in 1784, so Warren Hastings brought to Calcutta a number of Hindu pandits from all over India and established the foundation of what later became the Hindu property succession law and Hindu code, which later was incorporated into Indian constitution. What it means is, when parents are very poor, a loving mother, if she is willing, if she finds another person who also offers to be a loving mother to this child, can allow this child to be adopted by the new family. This is something very interesting to do. But that again shows the fundamental spiritual aspect of these human relations. Another one, Madaram Pidaram Jayam Pradaram Tanayam Gurum Aksharayat Shadam Davya Panthanam Cha Adadguru What it means is those who do not respect and accept the greatness and this the spirituality, the respectability of great uh, great spiritual icons of the family, beginning with mother. It's meant beginning with mother. So mother is the first important spiritual figure. So those who do not accept the spiritual dimension of the relationship between mother and her children, they should be punished. They should be asked to pay 100 gold coins as a penalty. It's an ancient scripture. This may not have any value to our own times. What it means is the ancient Hindu laws, they accepted, they emphasized the honorable position of a mother in the family structure. Now, this you can find if you look at the human civilizations, you find uh, in countries and civilizations where the mother ideal was respected, normally uh, family relations became secure. If you give an example, look at a country like China. China is an ancient civilization, 5,000 years of culture. A lot of anarchies and wars and genocides took place in China. Not just Mao Zedong, even before him, there were so many kingdoms and fighting. But according to many historians, Chinese historians included, and according to modern historians like Arnold Toynbee, writes in this in Somerset's condensation, we find Chinese civilization survived because of the relationship, because of the sanctity of human relationship between family members. It's a very interesting thing. On the other hand, if this sanctity is lost, and you may have the highest accomplishment in science and technology, civilization may not survive. This is an important thing. Even if your political system is loose or anarchical, as it is in China, even in India, for example, India had centuries of foreign domination yet to suffer from centuries of foreign invasions. Temples were destroyed. There were a lot of wars, India and China, and both these countries. So these civilizations survived mostly because of the sanctity and sacredness that prevailed in the family structure. And this sanctity and sacredness is built upon the foundation that mother is the supreme figure in the family. Mother IT, the supreme figure. Mother also the most dominant figure. And I mentioned this Holy Mother, there's one example. Holy Mother was the presiding deity and the patron and the protector of Ramakrishna order after Sri Ramakrishna's passing. Whenever there was a problem, whenever there was some kind of a difficult situation, many of the senior monks, including direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, went to Holy Mother for instructions because they knew that mother was impartial. Mother is the mother of all. Mother is not mother of just a few children. Mother is the mother of all. So you can find the way Holy Mother accepted and received Sister Nivedita, Miss Beggett, all these Western disciples, when they went to Woodboth. You can see in some of the books you find Sister Nivedita and some American women disciples, when they were to Bodhin, mother is sitting there. They don't know each other's language. Mother did not speak English. They also did not understand Bengali. But there was an underlying relationship between them. And that relationship is beyond language. It is beyond human communication because it takes place at another level. Because it like that level of affection and the natural intuitive wisdom that comes along with this motherly affection. So today's Mother's Day, I just remembered some of these great teachings from ancient Vedic scriptures because along with this, the blessings, the fruits of science and technology, that we are enjoying today in this 21st century, when one great things are happening that make our life more comfortable, much more easy. If we can at least retain some of these ancient values, then we can rescue this civilization, because the collapse of the institution of family can be the beginning of a human civilization. We can see this happening, the given rise and decline of our Roman Empire. Roman Empire began to collapse because the family structure was crumbling due to the barbarian invasions coming from outside. So any nation or any society where the fundamental unit of social life, namely the institution of family, when it collapses, that's the beginning of the collapse of the entire civilization. So I just want to collectively request to remember that this great mother ideal in Indian spiritual tradition, the most sublime concept of godhood was this universal divine mother archetype. The Kali, Durga, Lakshmi, as we mentioned earlier. All these actually are symbols of the most sublime concept of the divine. When you compare this with the uncompromising masculine aspect of Godhead, mostly prevalent in Abrahamic traditions. Here you can all forgiving, compassionate, universal, feminine, spiritual archetype, which is symbolic of the fact that God is essentially the mother of his creation. It means the mother dimension of the divine, the mother dimension of Godhead is the most sublime, the most compassionate aspect of dimension of the divine. Thank you. Namaskar. You're most welcome to discuss this. And normally we have half an hour is meant for question and answer, 45 minutes lecture in San Francisco. That's our tradition. In fact, when you worship God as mother, then you should consider yourself as her child. When you consider yourself a child of mother, you feel so much of intimacy, so much of natural intimacy and interrelatedness. Just as the relationship of a child to his or her mother is the most natural, the most intimate, and the most inseparable kind of relationship. So when you look upon God as your mother, as the beginning and the end of it, you feel so intimate, so close, so natural. Yes, I get. We don't feel the need to be formal in your relationship with the mother. Okay, thank you. It's all. Any other question? Yes, please. Any question? Okay.
Swami,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead, David.
You had mentioned, Swami, the anecdote with Holy Mother, where she sort of scolded those brahmacharis for treating God like a if I do this much prayer, he should give me illumination.
Right.
But we also read in Sri Ramakrishna, he was talking about the anecdote with I think it was the Sikhs, where he's saying, God, why should you call God compassionate? We should make demand of the mother. She's our very own. So we should demand we shouldn't demand from our mother. Could you explain the apparently different teachings?
Yeah. true. Mother must have noticed in the devotees she kind of attitude. Well, we have done japa. We want something to happen. So she may have noticed that total lack of this surrender idea. I mean, demanding. I have done this. I want this back. So very often, great spiritual teachers like Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother responded to their disciples or the devotees who came with questions. Not only they were not responding to their words, they were also responding to their moods, their attitudes. So mother must have dictated an attitude among those devotees. We have done so much of java, no, you should appear in front of me. That kind of attitude. So that must be what mother was addressing when she told them, you had done it, so you want it, like you have been to market, you pay so much of money, you want vegetables. So that's why mother was trying to emphasize. Again, in Sri Ramakrishna's, that's true. That is also true. If God is of everything, then there is nothing like a compassion. It is God's duty to do everything for us. That is also true. So I think both are correct. Very often you should remember, great spiritual teachers, when they give response, when they reply to the questions, they are not addressing the words, but also the mood, the attitude with which they were putting these questions. That's a genius of an ideal teacher. An ideal teacher will not just respond to the words in the question, but also to the fundamental attitude with which these questions are put. Is it clear? I don't hear. Yeah. Yeah. That's why in mother alone, you find, I mentioned this comes in one way, it comes in Chandi Devi Mahatmyam, it also comes in Lilita Sahasranama. Bhukti, Mukti, Pradayini. Bhukti means wealth, status, good job, everything. And Mukti means spiritual liberation, the Shiva aspect, the renunciation aspect. And Bhukti, in a way, is linked to the Vishnu aspect. Vishnu look quite well off, Shiva doesn't look that well off. He looks a man of renunciation, sacrifice. So you can find both. But I tell you, even in Shiva, you can find both. There is a well-known Sanskrit work. It is called Kumara Kalidasa's well-known kavya. Is a famous. There is a scene where Shiva, the great renunciate, is coming to test Uma, who was practicing austerity to realize Shiva, to get Shiva as a husband. But Shiva was a man of renunciation. So he was testing Uma's devotion. So he comes comes incognito, dressed as a mendicant. So apikriyartham sulabham samit kusam jalani visnana vidhikshamanite api sushaktiya tapasi pravartase sharira madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. So verse that come in the 5th Sarga Kumara Sambhava, you can look for it, 54th verse most probably. It says, here, Shiva, the great renunciate, is coming incognito. And then testing a devotee, are you, everything is okay with you? You have got enough water for daily oblations and things. Then he says, you should take care of your body. Sarira madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. Don't strain yourself too much with your austerities. So you can find Shiva in the subsequent verses, you find Shiva says, you are practicing austerity, but you also need a strong body to be able to practice austerity. So it's a very interesting, a holistic concept. You should practice the highest renunciation. At the same time, for practicing the highest renunciation, you need a tool. So the best tool for that higher spiritual practices is a healthy body. That's a state. So you find these both aspects, the renunciation aspect and also the natural common sense aspect in symbolic of Vishnu. You can find both. In mother gives you everything. A good job, mother, you pray, you will get it. You had a good salary, you get it. But then mother makes sure that along with this material prosperity, you also get a kick on your head, a blow on your head to open your eyes to the emptiness, the impermanence of all this material prosperity. That is mukti also. So mother gives you not only material prosperity, but also a link to something transcendental wisdom. This is the uniqueness of mother. If you pray to Vishnu, you get all wonderful things. He may not give you the highest renunciation, but mother will give you bhukti, everything that you want in this world, but eventually you will be automatically led to a realization of the emptiness, the impermanence of all these wonderful things. And then you will transcend all these desires and go to higher level of spiritual liberation. That's the uniqueness of the mother ideal. That's the most sublime, most complete spiritual ideal in any religious tradition is this. Mother as the supreme divine archetype. Because it is only with your mother that you can afford to be informal, intimate. Your mother may not scold you if you are not formally dressed for breakfast, but father may want you to follow all the rules and regulations. It's always there's a kind of distance, not necessarily, but frequently a distance in your interaction with mother. Sorry, with your father, there is totally, there's no distance, total intimacy in your relation with the mother. That's why the mother is the most supreme spiritual ideal in Hindu tradition. Thank you.
But
There's another question.
there placed Jody for
I have a question. If the Divine Mother is great and wonderful, then why isn't she in a picture right next to Ramakrishna behind you? Why the sexism?
Oh, you mean? Sri Ramakrishna is behind Holy Mother.
okay, yeah. When this chapel was built, the architect suggested that this space is for one picture. That we have not seen the wall. That we have two other pictures, rather three. So you have to come here to see. So it's not only one, but three. Here the space is limited, and the architect suggested that for this space there should be only one picture, right? So it is not sexist. Rather, mothers being more than this.
All right, but that still doesn't make any sense why she is not next to Ramakrishna. Sounds more like an excuse not to have the picture next to Ramakrishna.
David, ask your question.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear. Swami, what is what's the source? I think of the special quality, the feminine centrality. Certainly on an emotional level, I and probably most people share those sentiments. But what is the source of the difference of that relationship? Is it just purely nurturing? Is it the physical quality, or is there something more significant than that? Mothers take care of us, most of us, when we're little. They're the primary parent, not everybody, but is it that simple? Is there something more structural or profound about the connection?
You know, the development of the evolution of Hindu pantheon is based on these different aspects of human relationship in the family structure. So you can find in Hindu tradition, especially devotion philosophical tradition, different relations, like for example, the relation between father and son, or mother and son, and friends, and master and her servant. All these aspects are taken to be different forms of practicing devotional disciplines in Hinduism. Dasya, Sakya, Shanda, and so on. So, of course, that's a different subject. So the point is, it's called Navadha Bhakti, 9 forms of Bhakti. Anyway, now the point is, here in the mother aspect, there are some, of course, going back to the original sources. In the Rigveda Samhita, there is the Devi Suktam, and also it's called Rigvediya Devi Suktam. And also in the Yajurveda also there is Durga Suktam and Medha Suktam and so on. In all these hymns, what you find is an attempt to elevate one supreme, the feminine archetype to a divine dimension. So I think the ancient Vedic sages were trying to teach humanity that even if you try to be a good mother to your child, or if you try to be an ideal son or daughter to your mother, that itself can take you the highest spiritual liberation. There are many stories in the Puranas where a son became a sage and saint just because he took care of his parents properly with total dedication. He considered that duty to be as sacred as praying to God. So a son, an ideal son, can realize God even without going to a temple, but by dedicating his whole life to taking care of his parents properly. There, the act of taking care of parents itself becomes as sacred as worship. This is an important thing in Hindu tradition. You'll be surprised when I tell you, in Hindu tradition, you don't have to go to a temple to be spiritual. But you can go to a temple. Going to a temple is certainly a most wonderful methods for the highest spiritual realization. But you don't have to pay obeisance to an all powerful, uncompromising Godhead to be spiritual. You be a good human being. And being a good human being means to be an ideal daughter, to an ideal son, ideal mother, whatever role you have to play. That is actually based on the concept of Swadharma, which later came to be elaborated in the Bhagavad Gita. So you don't have to go to a temple and meditate to be spiritual. Sit in your home. Suppose you have a mother or father or grandfather, grandmother who is physically handicapped. You don't have time to go to a church. Hinduism will tell you, don't go to a church. Instead of going to a church and spending whole day there, neglecting your mother in your home, stay in your home, take care of your mother, father, grandfather, whoever may be, then God will be really pleased with you. But not when you go to a church or a temple by neglecting your duty to a suffering mother. This is an important theme in Hinduism. Hinduism is the only religion that tells you you can be spiritual without worshipping God. But by doing your duty properly, by being a good, ideal human being, that is enough for you to be spiritual. There are innumerable stories. The story of a boy
who did not do anything. Every day, he took care of his blind father and blind mother. Nothing. Feeding, bathing, being with them all the time. Slowly, as he was doing his duty as an ideal son, what happened? Slowly his mind opened up. He began to evolve spiritually without ever once going to a temple. That's why Hinduism doesn't demand that you should pay, you should surrender to God to be spiritual. Do your duty, and then you become spiritual. There are many stories where Lord Krishna condemned a fellow who neglected his duty to his mother, but was praying to him. Krishna said, I don't listen to your prayer. Go and take care of your mother. In Mahabharata it comes. Mahabharata it comes. Go to your home and take care of your mother. Even in Sri Ramakrishna's life, you find, Latu Maharaj story, where Sri Ramakrishna told Latu Maharaj, your mother is, the mother to whom you are praying is now making chapati, and assist her in doing it. So another aspect you find, it is a universality. That means the sheer spiritual humanism of Hindu tradition is so profound. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Swami.
So thank you, Swamiji, to come here and to give us such a wonderful lecture and talk on mother. And the last question, please pardon me, that last question is very important. His question was, is this a structural thing? See, mother takes care. Because of that, we should honor her as divine. So there, see, the thinking is, it is not that we have spiritual connection. Swami Vivekananda said, those children who come to this world because of the prayer of their mothers, they are moving Arya. But those who have come for just physical enjoyment or something like that, it's not an Arya. So this is a spiritual connection. It's not that it's because mothers took care of us physically that we honor mother. Swamiji's mother, Thakur's mother, all are root for children. Even our mother, Sarvabhumi, she also prayed for us. She wanted to have many children. And Sri Ramakrishna assured her that we will have so many children, and so many children will come and call you mother, mother, that you will be disturbed. Because mother was disturbed. So one thing is that one question was that combination of renunciation and combination of traditional idea, that is the plenty, everything is a plenty. We see that in Sri Ramakrishna. His more than less it. He had nothing like home. But at the same time, he has a family. Big family of Sri Shadavi and his whole thing in the world actually. So this is what we find, that combination of renunciation and also whatever this world can afford to give us. And as Christ, Jesus the Christ, developed the idea of divinity of fatherhood, Sri Ramakrishna developed the idea of divinity of motherhood. He literally cried, and it is said that when he opened his mouth as Ma, the whole as it were was entered into that mouth. He used to cry And on the ground, he used to wrap his face. Your mother other day has gone. You have not shown your blind face to me. And in this matter, Swami Tattwamayananda, later as Gangadhar Maharaj. So Sri Ramakrishna was telling him how to pray. So that was 35 or 30 years old, 35 years old. He fell down on ground, and he was throwing his both feet and hands to show how to pray. And if you can pray that way, mother is not far away. She'll be all here. I'll give an example. That's in the beginning, Swami also said that Purushakar and the grace. Total surrender. How that these two ideas can be combined. So suppose you are going to India or anywhere, since you, what do you do? You select a date, you select a destination, you buy a ticket, you go to the airport, you enter in the cabin, and surrender yourself to the pilot. You enjoy. And then the example has come, how you get out. I also said the same thing. Suppose there is a person sleeping and 4 people are carrying. They are carrying. Not in the morning you can see it, that you have reached at your destination. So, yes, there is a portion of Purushakar. At least we should try, like as Sri Ramakrishna showed. As Sri Ramakrishna showed, if someone can try for 3 days, 3 nights, he can have the action or realization of God. But the problem is we are engaged with this world so much that we do not have that edge. So this is for the civilization, survival of the civilization, as Maharaj said. And I have seen also, like small children, people calling their mother by her name, Linda, or something like that. You see, universally, we never uttered mother's name. Even I called her mother. I mean, the person who is addressed like that, with first name. I said, with this cultivation of faith, said one time to devotion, it's very important for survival of this civilization. This is to be done. So therefore, as we have to remember, Matri Devo, mother is divine. Mother is taking in song, Mayor Hatu, Chaitani, Mani Chinamar. If you can surrender, yes, the mother says, whenever you are in difficulty, let's remember. All the difficulties will go. The problems are ego, it comes in between. So we have to watch and see and try to eliminate. Otherwise, mother is taking all care. So everything depends on her. When you are guilty, apparently we are guilty. But stop for a minute or think and see. When you first take a good you can that just try. Eat 1 or 2 days. You'll see if somebody will come and if you don't, or she will in the hospital and then put so many things. So, mother is taking all care. Only we need to surrender. And if we are unable to even do the Namaskar, that also can be we cannot take. That's why it's not changing. It's all here. And we Swamis were spoiled children. Mother takes all care of us. Take for granted from us. Mother takes really all care of us. So thank you, Swamiji, for this, this occasion, and thank you all. Thank you very much. Oh, yes. So, welcome on Mother's Day to Mother's Temple. Actually, many of you might know the history of our temple. Temple is very closely associated to Halloween. Actually, many monks and many other places, if you go, they will actually agree this temple as so this temple is known as Arandhya of the West among the places. So and that's why we have such a nice and prolonged discussion on Saturday. So just to orient you with we see a lot of new faces. So I just thought to give 1 minute to give orientation about the temple. So this is the chapel of the temple. Actually, this is where we have our lectures and our classes. Our shrine is actually beyond this hallway. And if you go in this hallway, there will be 2 restrooms. You go beyond that, then you will find the shrine. Our shrine is open every day in the morning from 6 to 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the night. You are welcome to come and meditate as you want there. And so this is that we do the shrine. In the morning from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. we have sense ritualistic worship. Many of you might not have been ritualistic worship. We welcome you to come and from morning 8:30 to 9:30. So we do from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. we have evening vespers. So usually we would see from 6:30 to 7. We usually meet from Holy Life that some things ritual from 7 to 7:10, and then we have a meditation after that, which continues till 7:30 or 7:45. We feel to stay there as long as we want. 3 days a week we have scheduled classes. Thursday nights from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. we have a class. Friday nights 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. we have a class. And Sunday, every Sunday at 11 o'clock we have the Sunday service. So usually on today is a special day. We have a visitor. We have a visiting week. So whenever there is a monk visiting, usually we have a special program. So the Sunday service usually ends at a class and such a beautiful lecture. Whenever we have a visitor. But usually we study on these 3 days. So currently on Thursdays, we are studying Tattwamayananda by Shankaracharya. We are at verse 525, so we are in the last level of that book. 45 more verses, we have to get a new book. And on Fridays, we are studying the life of Sri Ramakrishna. So the book is Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play on Friday nights from 7:30 to 8:30. So we have copies of that. On Sundays, we take up as a text of study. We are currently in chapter 10, verse 5. So when you come next Sunday, that is where we. I saw many people reading Bhagavad Gita Sunday with them because we welcome surprise for all of you if you have not followed our bulletin. So that is our weekly schedule. If you want individual spiritual instruction and one-on-one discussion, you are welcome to chat with Swami Chandrasekharananda, who is the monk in charge of our members. And in the mornings, in the ritual, you will usually find the Swami Vivishananda attending the ritual. If you have questions regarding that, feel free to either chat with him or with Swami Vivishananda. I will shorten the names for you. They were Swami C and Swami D. So that is them where you find them. If you want individual discussions, you can also have them. Congregational work we are already doing this. Yes, and so fortnightly, bi-weekly, first Wednesday of the month, the third Wednesday of the month. You know, Portland is more or less like a city that goes east-west. Most of the activities are done on the west side of the town in the rural area. We on the first Wednesday of the month and the third Wednesday of the month. This is again a class that goes from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Swami Yogishananda conducts that class. And our topic of discussion is Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So that is going on the west side of the city. So if you are coming from the west side of the city, I welcome you to join on first and Wednesdays in person. And you can, all these classes are available on Zoom. All our earlier classes are available on our YouTube channel. Please go and follow me if you want to catch up on something. You are welcome to do so. And we also have a lot of books. We have a full bookstore. Feel free to browse to them. And if you want to buy, catch me or Susie, Swami, and Barbara, and we will purchase. Third, we'll celebrate Guru Purnima. And on fourth, we'll have a function in our retreat in Scapus, 4th of July. 3rd of July, Guru Purnima, and 4th of July, and we call it Interfaith Freedom Fest. Just a catchy name. But it is, we'll have a temple dedicated Mahai Shrine dedicated on that day. So all are most welcome. Thank you very much.